Ghost hunting. When you deliberately go looking for spirits, either for entertainment, footages, or recordings, is that really the smartest thing to do? Grab a blanket, turn off your lights, and be prepared with these ghost hunting's gone bad stories. You might want to think twice before you go ghost hunting again. Adler Woman. Since I could remember, I've always dealt with supernatural or paranormal in my life. I have, however, had a fascination with both. I remember my little sister telling me how she saw a witch behind a curtain, and she screamed for my mother to come in her room to check. At the time, she was 4 years old, and she described her face as being impressed in the fine silk curtain. When she screamed, she said the witch made a fearful expression and vanished. My mother has had paranormal dealings with UFOs and ghost shadow people. My story begins in a town fallen in darkness. I will not give the location, however. The town is in upstate New York. Location: in the middle of nowhere with a population of about 500 or so people who live by working with the earth. In the 19th century, the town was booming and prosperous, with everyone coming for relaxation and peace. What brought so many people to this town was the mineral springs and spas, which were sulfur and magnesium. That was the popular attraction. Grand and elegant hotels sprung up around them, bringing more tourism and economy to the spa town. It was all too good to be true. It all had to end some way or another. Way before this town even came to be, before settlers came from the east, Native American Iroquois deemed the area as a sacred place as they buried their loved ones there. There were 3 Native American burial grounds that surrounded the area. In 1780, a great battle ensued a mile outside the town limits. The natives lost terribly and eventually gave the land to the settlers. This plays to my theory very well. The town prospered, and by the early 1900s, fell hard and not so beautifully. Hotels and businesses closed. They still stand, but rot away as time goes by. Spa lay in ruin. People have left, and tourism is down to none. It is what we call a ghost town. Figurative, and also literally. Some haunted places around the area are the Beekman Mansion, which is believed to have been known to have haunted bloody footprints on the steps. It was owned by a judge or political figure at the time. An apartment building is believed to be haunted. The Columbia Hotel is known to have its haunted elevators move on its own, and of course, the famous and now defunct Adler Hotel. That was the history. Now the main point of my story. The Adler is a grand 7-story hotel. It has a ballroom, a gym, a pool, suites, a dining hall, kitchen, and a spa in the basement floor. Ever seen or read The Shining? As creepy and foreboding as that hotel in the movie, smaller, but it has the narrow, twisted hallways, the bathroom, the bar. Anyways, many famous celebrities have been there. Even a mayor of New York City used to be a busboy there. It always interested me since living there for so many years. I finally got the courage to investigate. As I've already have investigated numerous buildings in the area, the Adler was the only one not to be. It was the summer of 2008. Me and my 2 friends decided to spice things up and explore the Adler. The first couple times we went in, nothing out of the ordinary happened. But let me tell you, being in there is like being in another dimension. You step in there, the air is heavy, dark, damp, and what bugged me the most was how quiet it was. So quiet you wouldn't even hear the echo of your footsteps, even in big empty rooms like the ballroom. We had flashlights to make sure there wasn't some sort of mass blocking reverberation, but there wasn't anything that I could put my finger on. By the fourth or fifth time we went to investigate, it went the same really. But later on, it got weirder. My friend began to tell me how someone in this hotel was shot in the attic, and a bullet hole was still up in the wall there. We decided to go and find out. We climbed the steps, and it grew heavy up there. We finally reached the attic, and up there, we found a hospital bed and various junk. We looked at the wall, and there was a giant hole, as if someone took it out on purpose. Who knows? We went downstairs afterwards, and we came to the dining room. The dining room was full of tables that were blocking the doorway. We had to go under them to get to the next room. We finally reached the lobby, and that's when it all began. My friend said stop. We listened, and we heard someone walking up the stairs that we came. And the three of us were all accounted for. We got the hell out of there. Weeks went by until I went in again. This time it was a different group of friends, about 6 people. I told another friend about the hotel, and he was interested into the paranormal, as I was, and told me his ghost escapades in Long Island, and was usually good at telling if a place was haunted or not. The 6 of us went there, and as soon as we got in, he said, "Oh man, it's haunted." We found several cold spots in the hallway, and things went on normal. Soon, it came to not be so. We began to split up, and we were fooling around after a while. I saw my friend Joe hiding behind a corner and ran down to the other side and hid again. I went to investigate. He smacked me with his coat as a joke and ran away. I laughed, cussed, and told him to come back. As he was walking down the hallway, I saw something behind him. There, a woman with a pale complexion, no eyes, blonde white hair, and the most devilish smile I'd ever seen was right behind for a brief moment. I ignored it as just being my imagination. We continued, and I would walk past the hallways, and in the corner of my eye, I would see her down them. Again, I would ignore them. Then I heard everyone in a frantic condition, mostly from this girl in our group who saw a woman in a mirror. That's when I knew I wasn't just seeing things. We felt more cold spots, and that is when we finally left that dreaded place. That night, I felt drained and tired, and fell asleep as soon as I got home. A day later, my friend from Long Island told me how he felt that when he got home, he felt the same thing. He said the ghost must have attached to him and said the same thing happened to me. More things occurred at my home. I began seeing shadow people in my house, but mostly in my room. One night, as I was drifting off to sleep, I heard a noise or creak and sensed someone standing over my bed watching me. I then saw a shadow on the wall that shouldn't have been there. The only thing illuminating my room was the soft glow of my alarm clock. It was the shadow of a human. I got my pillow and blanket and slept down in the living room that night. A week or so went by, and my mom brought up how she also saw shadow people in the hallways. I was actually quite thrilled because I thought it was just my imagination again. She went on to say it was my grandma coming back to see us. I think it was something else. I have some more thoughts to give. I would have endless conversations with my college friend about ghosts and spirits in the spa town. He has also gone to say that the town has natural springs. It's on a nexus, which attracts spirits and ghosts to the area. To make things worse, the springs are sulfur, which is composed of negative energy and makes mean spirits. And since the town is surrounded by 3 native burial grounds, it doesn't help the paranormal activity either. The spa town is basically a gateway for the other world. I don't know what your thoughts will be about this story, but I would love to hear some opinions. Thank you for reading. Crazy paranormal investigation. My close friends and I have had paranormal experiences since we were very little. Last year, we started a ghost hunting group, and we got to go to the most haunted places in our town every weekend. This past weekend, we went to an abandoned house on a street that one of our members lived on. We didn't know much about the history of the house. What we all know is that a woman hung herself in it years ago. The house is completely abandoned. It is still furnished and everything, but it's very, very creepy. We weren't able to go inside the house, but enough happened on the outside to give us a good idea of how scary the inside would be. As we walked up to the house, the energy completely shifted and turned dark, sad, and almost draining. At first, we only looked in the huge windows of the house to see inside. We didn't see much, just normal furniture, staircases, chandeliers, and a picture of a man in a navy suit on the wall. Suddenly I started shaking. An overwhelming feeling of sadness and terror went through me, and I felt like something horrible was going to happen. Right then, my neck started burning and stinging. I asked my boyfriend to look at it, and he pointed out several scratch marks on my neck. I started freaking out, but I tried to appear as calm as possible. I started asking questions, and when I asked about the picture on our wall, our spirit devices, which uses a word database that spirits can manipulate, said crew. My boyfriend is in the ROTC at our school, and he told me that crew is a rank in the military. We went back to look at the picture again, and we jumped as we saw that the chandelier on the ceiling was moving back and forth on its own. Just then, I started feeling pain in my neck again. Only this time it wasn't stinging and burning, it was as if someone was pressing into my throat. A member of our team pointed out that my throat was turning red and snapped several pictures. Just as the feeling was going away, our machine said, "Center room." Several of our team members looked back in the huge window, but my boyfriend and I looked in the windows at the bottom of the house to see into the basement. Both of us saw a small orb of light flashing in the center of the room before it seemed to fly off and disappear. I looked in the direction that it went and saw a misty, dark silhouette of a woman standing in the corner for a few seconds before it disappeared. We freaked out and jumped back, telling the others to look in. They didn't see anything in the basement, but later on, when they looked in the window, they saw the same figure. And then a member of our team asked, "Why did you kill yourself?" The machine then said, "Marriage, sad, distance." We thought for sure maybe the woman was supposed to get married to the man in the uniform, but he went to war, and there was distance, and she was sad. We don't know for sure, but that was an amazing investigation. Ghost hunt. About 10 years ago, I befriended a lovely woman that I shall call Jade. Jade, like me, was interested in the paranormal. Our reasons were different though, as she, having lost a son, was curious in life after death. I, on the other hand, felt ghosts my entire life, wanted to hone my craft. Jade had just joined a ghost hunter society and was interested in starting her own local chapter. She was hopeful to gather a group to hunt in eastern Washington. She was in need of a sensitive for her new assembly and was very interested in my abilities. I didn't consider myself that experienced, but knew I had some ghost feeling talent. Jade felt I should start with her house for some more practice, since she and her family first moved into the house in the 90s, and there had been some activity. The activity increased after some remodeling, and old pamphlets from the KKK had been found in her wall. She hoped some long-dead racist wasn't haunting the place. Luckily, the haunting seemed playful, almost childlike in nature. She did not feel that it could have been her deceased son. She and I felt he was too busy enjoying his time in heaven with loved ones. We didn't speak of him too much or how he passed. I never wanted to press her for any details and possibly upset her. I could see that she was still quite heartbroken over her loss. She lived about 2 hours away from me, in a tiny little town. Her dark green, white-trimmed house was adorable. It resembled a small Victorian cottage. It was 2 stories, with a gingerbread trim front porch surrounded by huge shade trees that must have been planted as the house went up. She took me on a tour of her sweet place to see if I could pick up anything. I did not pick up on a presence anyplace in the house or the usual feeling of being watched. Strangely, what I did continually see was what paranormal activities the family had witnessed in the past. For instance, she took me up the narrow stairs to 2 cute bedrooms tucked under the eaves. At the top of the stairs was a funky little cupboard door built into the wall. I told her that I felt something had happened with that cupboard and baby clothing. She opened it to show me that now it was empty, but a few months before it had stored many baby clothes and items. Her and her husband had been gone with the house locked up, only to return to find every item in that cupboard had been tossed down and along the stairs. I asked her if her large palm plant in the corner of her living room ever shook, and she told me that, yes, especially during renovation. I also knew that the kitchen had been added on, and a spirit at one time had been seen walking out a back door that was no longer there. She confirmed that yes, her husband saw a person walking through the back wall. I could actually see used smudge bundles around the house and knew that she had been cleansing. I felt that the renovation had stirred up a few souls, but honestly seemed gone now. Hopefully, the KKK pamphlet left in the wall was to hide it away a long time ago, though I personally think that they should have burned it. We decided to go ahead and take a walk around the yard and garden. I sensed old growth and beauty. I pointed out some heirloom flowers that she didn't know she had, and I admired the large trees and lilac hedge up close. We walked along the front of the house, then I started up a side driveway that ended at the back of the house. Jade was following me, and as I got halfway up the driveway, it hit me. The pain in my chest and crippling, heartbreaking emotion that overcame me still makes me cry to think of it today. My hands immediately went to my heart, and I began to sob. These were overpowering sobs that I have never ever experienced in my life. All I could mutter was, "What happened here?" I turned and Jade stood behind me, also sobbing. I'm so sorry, she choked. So sorry. Didn't think you would pick this up. She took a deep breath and said, "This is where her son died." I ran to her and held her in that driveway, both of us with tears streaming. She was trying to apologize to me, but I wanted so badly to comfort her. I couldn't tell at that point if the pain I was feeling was his physical pain at the time or her agonizing heartbreak. The poor grieving woman had to walk me shaking into the house, sat me down, and gave me a beer and a cigarette. She explained to me that a few years earlier, her son's baby brother was in a parked car in the driveway, and it began to roll down the driveway. Her son ran behind it to try to stop it, and it killed him instantly. We sat and gathered our thoughts and emotions for a while. I assured her that her son was not earthbound, but the event must have left an impression there that I was not prepared to feel at the time. I didn't know I even had the ability to feel something like that. I was shaken to the core. It took me a full hour to calm down enough for me to drive home. About a half hour into driving home, my throat began to swell and hurt. I did not feel well at all. I pulled over to call my best friend and tell her I was on my way home and was okay. When she picked up and I tried to talk, I had lost my voice. Only horsey squeaks came out. It took me a few attempts to finally get her to understand that it was me, and that I was fine. Only coming down with something, I made it home and proceeded to get ill. It was one of the worst and only cases of bronchitis I'd ever had. My chest burned, and I could not speak for 2 weeks. It took a lot of antibiotics to recover. I know now that the cause of the little son's death was a sudden, large tear in his heart muscle. I just don't know if I was so sick from feeling his pain or the pain of his mother's loss, or if I just didn't know what I was getting into. That was going to be my last ghost hunt.